Here we go. How we doing? Chargers, good. Titans, not good. Welcome in. Shouldn't be frozen. I am here now. I see Josh, Chris, Ralph, dig up, retweet, or share. Point your friends. We're public tonight. Quieting down my phone. Come on in. How we doing? Recovered, I hope, from that Saturday. Hi, Jamie, from Saturday evening's, afternoon's fiasco. Ended in the evening after the hour delay, I suppose. Call it evening after such a terrible result. Awful. 5 in a row. Obviously, this team's sinking fast. The contempt now for Vrabel, I think, is misplaced. I think he should feel like, the guy that needed to be fired already been fired. Maybe it would have been better if she waited until he was fired, or waited to fire him until now, or after this collapse was complete. But obviously, she couldn't have seen it coming. So, not a good situation by any means for the Titans, who, I know a lot of you out there are like, rest everybody. I would not rest Derrick Henry, no matter what kind of offensive line they've got out there. Dallas 22nd against the run. Titans, could conceivably pull off a win Thursday night with some combination of Derrick Henry running and Malik Willis running, if they come up with a better strategy to run Malik Willis, which they did not do well enough against the Texans, who are 10 spots worse right now than Dallas at defending the run. But Titans can't afford to, just completely shut it down Thursday night. Got to figure out how to win a game. They're not going to flip a switch in Jacksonville and win a game on the 8th or the 9th. And that's a problem. New sweatshirt. Check it out. Members of the All 22 got one of those sweet puppies for Christmas. I'm a big fan. Dobbs over Willis. I mean, the people are making it like Dobbs is good. If Dobbs was good, he wouldn't have been on a practice squad, able to be signed. He would have at least been a backup somewhere. So, I think Dobbs is a better conventional quarterback with look, they should be crafting an offense around what Willis can do. And if you read Blake Bedingfield at my site at paulkuharski.com, posted Sunday night, they did 2 designed runs for Willis the whole game. And they had a lot of success on the RPOs that they ran. They only ran 11 of them. Do more of that. Why are you not running an offense designed for that stuff with Willis in there? It doesn't make any sense. So I don't think Willis is very good. I understand that there's a limited judgment that you can pass on him with a terrible offensive line and terrible weapons. But there are a handful of plays in there where enough goes right around him that you can see what he's got, and he's not good. Now, I didn't expect him to be good at all this year. I would have hoped that he wouldn't have been called on because he's so raw. But it's hard to see the things there are to like about him, to be confident in him in 2023. I don't think there's any reason to be confident about him as a starting option in 2023. If he's the starter next year, if they decide to move on from Tannehill to save 18.8 and swallow $17 million, it's not going to be a good football team. Now you say the offense can't be worse. It can be worse. Can turn the ball over more. But they've got to fortify an offensive line. They've got to get receivers. And they've got to give whoever the quarterback is a lot more to work with. And Greg, I've reported that it's very unlikely that Tannehill's back. And then since he's had the surgery, other national outlets have said the same. He's certainly not, it'd be a miracle if he was back for the Jacksonville game. I don't expect him to win the Jacksonville game, so there won't be anything for him to be back for. Long shot that he'd be back for a playoff game. It's highly unrealistic, David. I don't think they need to run a wishbone, Robert, but they could be a lot more creative. Doesn't mean the surgery failed. I mean, this high tie surgery or whatever it's called is only performed by a couple doctors in Alabama. It's not very widespread thinking that it's a solution. This is a long-term injury and kind of a desperate surgery that's a long shot. It didn't fail. I used to say this all the time, D-Gup, like when I saw receivers go up and make amazing plays around the league. I was like, that's allowed? For the better part of 25 years with the Titans, I'd say that. Then we saw A.J. Brown make those plays and thought, they found one of those guys. And then after 3 years, they're like, oh, no, that's enough of that guy. Let's get rid of him. I mean, some of this is on Vrabel, the downing part largely. But yeah, people got spoiled that the Titans did as well as they did last year, as hurt as they were, and expected them to do as well. Listen, if you were in these chats, and I know a lot of you are members here. Those of you who aren't should join. It's a steal at the price. But I said when the Chargers and the Eagles and the Cowboys and the Bengals were coming on the schedule, even if the Titans were healthy, they were not going to match up well with those teams. It was easy to see 4 losses coming with those teams. So this team was not very good, healthy, frankly. I mean, Ben Jones is a big loss. But some of these guys who they've lost or who are out. I mean, Christian Fulton's a big loss. Monty Hooker's a big loss. But they've been stringing together things in the secondary, in particular, for a long time. This team is just not that good, and I think people need to remember that the roster is the reason that John Robinson got fired. And the roster is the main problem here. And I've pointed this out week after week. I mean, last week, or a couple days ago, the Texans, without Dameon Pierce, their top running back, without Stingley, their top cornerback, they lost their Titus Howard, one of their best tackles during the course of the game. They lost a tight end during the game. John Mechie hasn't played for them all season. And there's somebody else I'm forgetting. When they played the Chargers without Derwin James and Bosa and Rashawn Slater, and the 3 players that replaced those players all made plays. So it's not just about injuries. Everybody has injuries. It's about depth. The guys the Chargers have replacing those 3 top players were good. Nasir Adderley made an interception in place of Derwin James. The 6th-round pick from Georgia, who replaced Rashawn Slater, silenced Bud Dupree as an offensive lineman. That's a guy the Titans should have drafted, the kind of guy the Titans need to draft. The guy playing in Bosa's slot had a sack and a strip for a fumble, Ryan Tannehill. So it's not just that the Titans are hurt, it's that the Titans don't have depth behind the guys who are hurt that come in and make plays, and other teams do. Let's get to more of your questions. No, Daryl, none of the games this weekend have anything because no matter what happens, the winner of the Jaguars-Titans game wins the AFC South. So the two games, Jaguars, Texans, and Titans, Cowboys, just don't have any bearing on it. What happens in the season finale trumps all of that. If I'm the owner, I got to hire a good GM that works in sync with Vrabel, that gives me a plan for how to retool or rebuild this team, starting with the offensive line. That gives me a solid draft plan for how the hit rate is going to be high, to how to get the cap problems behind the team as fast as possible and get on to good salary cap footing. And make a decision at quarterback as to what they're going to do going forward, and then get to work on scouting. Maybe revamp the scouting department after getting through this draft and evaluating what's going on in the scouting department. But I mean, that's where it all starts. And then you got to evaluate everything connected to injuries. But I do think a lot of you that just want the strength and conditioning staff fired, when a guy rolls an ankle, when a guy tears an ACL, when a guy's got an elbow injury, when guys get concussions, those aren't strength and conditioning injuries. So, but I do think they need to probably, from what I know, which is not that much because it's such a secretive thing, stack, medical science, beef up that element of the team. Dylan, for a long time, I've thought, they're just going to have to extend Tannehill. Got to have a functional quarterback going forward. But, I wouldn't have a problem if they decided to swallow the $18 million, move on from Tannehill, take the hit. I just can't see going forward with Malik Willis as the starter. I don't think you can win with the guy next year, and not being able to win with the guy next year. I mean, I understand even if you're doing a big rebuild, you still have to have a quarterback that gives you a chance to win. And so I don't know what you do from there. They're not going to be in range of drafting one of the top guys. They don't have the resources to move up and get the top guy. They have too many other needs that they need to draft anyway. So they're in a sticky position, in a really sticky position. I mean, Jason, Brady's a free agent, but Brady's going to cost a shit ton of money, and Brady's had a terrible year in similar circumstances to what the Titans had this year. He's got a relationship, obviously, with Vrabel, but what they need is young and inexpensive with upside. It's hard to get young and inexpensive with upside right now. Miles asks if I think at times Vrabel appreciates my perspective and questions as much as he has to act like he may not. I don't know that he has to act like he may not. I think if you ask coaches from, and obviously I've grown more independent since, but if you asked Fisher, Munchak, um, Wisenhunt, Malarkey, Vrabel, all of them uh, respect me to a degree that is different than other people, and that the arm wrestling, if you will, keeps them on their toes and adds something to press conferences and the press coach relationship that otherwise would not be there. I mean, Parker, I tend to feel the same way. Zero faith that Malik Willis will ever be anything. You got to give him a little bit of time. Got to see him through camp next year and give him at least 2 years. As of right now, there's not much evidence. But again, came in raw. I said at the beginning to expect nothing of him this year. The best thing would have been for him not to have played at all. They put him in a position where they wound up needing to rely on him. And now he's got, a terrible offensive line and terrible weapons. But it doesn't look like a guy that with good offensive line and good weapons would be doing anything. And there are moments in a game with a bad offensive line and with bad weapons where there's still opportunity for him. And he is not showing you or me signs that are encouraging out of that. I mean, Neil, where's Neil? I just lost Neil. I wanted to get to this. Do I think Amy will sign up on a blow it up because she's made an inside change because she wasn't satisfied? Well, I mean, she's going to sign off on what, new GM sells her on along with Vrabel. And if that's the necessity of the situation, I mean, I think part of what you have to present to her is that you're going to have things in order for 2026 to move into a new stadium. And that's a good ways away. But certainly she would want a timetable that gives her a good team for then. And the ebb and flow of the league, if you've had an expensive quarterback in particular, and an aging roster that had a lot of failures on it that prompted you to fire the GM, I don't think she can be naive about how good she expects this team to be next year. Well, Joseph, I appreciate your kind words, and I miss being on the radio. Thanks. I'd buy that, Miles. That Vrabel sometimes has a look of thank God someone else sees this shit. Sometimes when it's about the personnel, not when it's about Downing or about the fact that he keeps saying they can't commit first series penalties and they keep committing first series penalties. Sabine, I think a third-round rookie quarterback could look good in moments with this offensive line and wide receiver core and Downing calling the plays. In moments. And I don't think he's had enough moments. And I think it's not unreasonable to want to see some more moments. Chuck says Nissan Stadium is going to sound like AT&T Stadium on Thursday night. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. Look, Downing is Vrabel's guy. So if Willis isn't looking good in the structure that he's being given, that's on the coaches then. I'm not giving Willis a free pass because of that. Elite quarterback, stud wide receiver, dual running back. That's how successful offenses succeed in this league. Well, Juice, the Titans were a successful offense in this league a little while ago, and they did it a different way. They didn't have a dual running back, and they did just fine riding Derrick Henry. So I too would like to see the Titans with a modern offense. That would start with a modern quarterback. It's a hard route to get one, but they've had a successful offense structured with a Tannehill Henry offense. Yeah, David, I do. I think they stay with Henry in the run first offense for another year. I don't think they have much of a choice. Yeah, the word on Dupree is that he, I believe, was estimated to not practice today in a walkthrough with the pec injury. Let me double check here. Did not practice with the pec. I mean, they need so many people on the offensive line, Brian. I think they have to draft and look at free agents. But it's conceivable they need 4 offensive linemen. I mean, Ben Jones could retire. Nate Davis could leave as a free agent. I don't get the sense they're real high on him right now. Daly obviously needs to be replaced, and Brewer, overmatched out there and did not have a very good year, though they seem high on him. I don't, he's smart and all that. I don't doubt that, but he's not winning with the smarts. At the very least, I think he would move from guard to center to replace Ben. But they're going to need 3, maybe 4 guys. So they need them every way they could get them. Yeah, this is always an interesting question, Brent. There are only 32 GM jobs. I mean, if you could get the Titans GM job, it's desirable. Like this idea that people are going to sit back and say, no, I don't want the Titans GM job. I'm going to sit back and wait for a better GM job. Like people were saying about Art Smith. Oh, he's not going to take the Falcons job. He's got such a great job as an offensive coordinator for the Titans. He'll just wait. People don't wait. When your time comes and you can get a GM job, you go. Now, I don't know what the second half of your question means. A new GM has never took over a good job. It's not a bad job. I mean, it doesn't have a great quarterback situation, obviously, but it's got a good head coach. It's got steady ownership that generally has left the football people alone. It's got good facilities. It's in a good city. So I don't, it's not, it's got a good track record of winning over the previous GM. Now, it's desirable to me. I mean, the obvious people are working with Malik Willis, the offensive coordinator and the quarterback coach, Todd Downing and Pat O'Hara. Yeah, look, an individual player, whether the scheme is bad, whether his surroundings are bad, is allowed to flash moments of goodness. He hasn't flashed many moments of goodness. So I understand the context around him, and I'm not saying he's in a great position, Willis, but I'm not giving him a blanket, pass on and I didn't think he should play this year at all. It would have been ideal for me because he came in so raw. The fact is, he's a professional athlete and he's out there. Hell, he couldn't handle a damn handoff on 2 trick plays they put him in for. Now, you get drafted into the NFL, you're a supreme athlete. You have to be able to take a friggin' handoff if you're a quarterback who, regularly has fielded even shotgun snaps in your life. You're coming into the NFL as a quarterback. He hasn't done enough. There should be 3 plays a game where he flashes something. And I don't see it. Now, again, it's early and the context is bad around him. The stuff around him, the line, the receivers, the coordinator, all that stuff. Still, given all of that, we should see a little bit more. Brian, I don't get to decide when Farley retires, nor do you. And he's expensive next year. I don't see why you wouldn't have him to camp and see, if he can be a depth player for you. I would think he's going to be better, has a chance to be better than your 5th cornerback, than Trey Avery, who, has had a couple good games and a couple horrific games. So I don't see what the damage is of having him to camp. He's not making any money between, January and September, and they're obligated to rehab him anyway. I think Vrabel's 8 to 4 o'clock comment was really just trying to tell everybody to do more, dig deeper, and give me more. I do think also, he said, say less, do more today was one of his message. How could they say less? Nobody says anything. I mean, does he want them to put tape over their mouths and not speak? Does he want a team of mutes? Say less. Nobody says a thing. You don't have to worry about saying anything. Nobody's saying anything. And nobody's going to get a chance to take a run at Lamar, Noah. He's not going anywhere. They have franchise tag. I don't know that Robinson was the easy target, Kevin. Robinson is the right target. I mean, I think it's premature. I think you don't sign a guy to a 5-year extension and show faith in him and then fire him before he's done with the year 1 of the 5-year extension. But he's not throwing people a bone and picking the easy target. I mean, the primary thing that's wrong with the Titans is they don't have enough talent. They've wasted a ton of draft picks. They've signed the wrong free agents. I mean, you spent top dollar on Bud Dupree coming off an ACL, and he's not been healthy. Robert Woods was one of your big wide receiver answers. The guy gets no separation, and he's coming off an ACL. Stay the fuck away from all these hurt guys. And then you go back. I mean, the holes created by somebody like Isaiah Wilson last for a long time. They echo. And when you have to spend 3 picks, a first rounder on Isaiah Wilson, a second rounder on Dylan Radins, a third rounder on Nicholas Petit-Frere, who, by the way, has not been that good. We just haven't talked about him that much because he's better than Dennis Daly and Aaron Brewer. When you spend 3 picks to solve one position in 3 years, a first, a second, and a third, that's a problem. He's not a convenient target. I mean, if you're firing somebody, and again, I think it's too soon on John Robinson. I would have let him try to dig out of it. But who would you have preferred? And don't tell me Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel, has done wonders in these circumstances. Somebody earlier said he spoiled people, which is true. If Mike Vrabel got fired here, he'd get hired in 2 seconds by some NFL team, one of whom might fire a coach they weren't planning on firing. And he'd come back and beat the shit out of the Titans with a team inferior to the Titans, out coaching somebody who would be way worse. Titans fans have this thing where they automatically imagine whoever the replacement is going to be better. Like, right? John Robinson's replacement's never going to make a bad pick. John Robinson's replacement wouldn't have made any of the mistakes John Robinson made. Parker's asking about Henry's fumbles. He's trying to do too much. He basically kind of said that. He's getting caught from behind a little bit more often maybe than he used to. Some of those are being punched out from behind. I don't think he's losing the locker room. I don't think Vrabel's losing the locker room, Rick. They're not that good. The key to all of this is that they're not that good. They're still listening to him. They're still trying to do what he wants. They're not capable of doing what they want. All these teams they've lost to, except Houston, are better than they are. Jacqueline. I mean, he had a nice 14-yard run. That's what he's supposed to do. This guy should be running for 100 yards since he can't throw. And we've said that. Burks, this on Downing, Burks should be getting targeted 8 times in that game. They didn't throw to Burks. They didn't throw to Chig. Let's not baby the guy. Let's not get into this thing where we immediately baby a guy. He's a nice guy. I know you like him. He's a nice guy. Hadn't done shit. I don't know why this is a surprise, Robert. I know you. You're around a lot. Guys play the game on Sunday, or in this case, Saturday. Then when they come in the next day, they've got stuff from the game. Not everybody leaves the game with the injury. Not every injury causes a guy to leave the game. Not every injury is apparent when a guy leaves the stadium. It goes to bed that night, wakes up the next morning. Oh shit, my bicep's messed up. Oh damn, I feel a little fuzzy. You know, Ben Jones, neither of his concussions were apparent the night of the game, but the next day he had symptoms. So, I mean, a lot of stuff that shows up on the injury report the next Wednesday, or in this case, you know, the next Monday, because they're on a short week coming off a Saturday game, is stuff that we just, you know, doesn't come to light during the game if a guy's not knocked out of the game, but then becomes an issue on some level when the injury report comes out. When Dupree is healthy, he impacts games. He just hasn't been healthy enough. I don't think there's any chance to bring back Lewan. A lot of people want Lewan to take minimal money and come back and everything. Again, it's this sentimental attachment, I think, more than anything. Listen, nobody loves Lewan more than I do. But I think it's just an unreasonable expectation. They need to come young and cheap. I mean, Vrabel's going to have more power, Neil. Vrabel's going to have more power, but responsible for player personnel. I mean, Vrabel's not going to run the player personnel office. He's got a full-time job. He's not going to want 2 full-time jobs. Who has final say? You know, I think they're going to wind up saying they're going to try to build consensus. I don't know if they're going to come right out and say who has final say, but I think Vrabel's going to have more say. No, team's allowed to get a head start on interviewing. It's got to interview 2 minorities under the Rooney Rule. But Amy, in her very short interview with Teresa Walker, said she was going to wait. I don't know what's wrong with a coach butting head with some players. If you have shit like Dennis Daly, you should butt head with some players. I don't know what you would want from Keith Carter this year with the shit hand he's been dealt. Keith Carter, you wanted him fired before when he had bad offensive linemen. Then he got good offensive linemen and everybody liked him. Now he's got bad offensive linemen and people are calling for his head again. I can't imagine that Mike Vrabel would be co-sign the idea of having a TV guy as the Titans' new GM. There is no way. If Amy Adams Strunk fired Mike Vrabel, you guys should all give up your season tickets. There's no way he should get fired. I mean, I don't understand how any logical Titans fan could think that it should be in the realm of possibility. He's had a bad second half of the season with a shit roster that's completely injured. He's terrific. I don't understand how it can enter the realm of your thinking. Derrick Henry has nowhere near the draft value, Elliot, the trade value that people think. He's got 1 year left on his contract. He's an old running back, and he doesn't play on third down. Well, you can't letting Tanny walk kind of means like his contract runs out. You have to cut him. Letting him walk suggests his contract's up. You have to cut him. So you're just sacrificing next season. I don't know. Oh, I think Aaron Brewer will be here next season. He might, hopefully, wouldn't be a starting lineman, but I think he's on the team. I mean, if Josh wants to know what players have had moments other than Burke and Chick, well, Tannehill certainly had moments. Henry's had moments. Ben Jones has had moments. Plenty of guys on defense have had moments. Autry, uh, Fulton, when he's healthy, has had moments. Byard. I thought Amani Hooker done a nice job playing nickel, but he's got 3 different injuries, which is a big issue. Plenty of frontline guys for the Titans have had moments this year. So I don't know that anybody, if Tannehill is on the trading block, is going to trade for him, because if he's on the trading block, they know that you're close to cutting him. And if you're close to cutting him, then they could go get him and sign him at their own rate instead of taking on a $27 million base salary for next year. So I don't know. You know, that salary is the thing. But Ryan Tannehill will be a great quarterback for a lot of teams that are kind of in the position the Titans were in when they acquired him in 2019, right? 18 and 19, where they needed some veteran insurance and a potential guy that could flip out with Marcus Mariota going into the last year of his deal, or a team that, you know, just needs a steady veteran that's got a good run game that can run a lot of play action, that needs to get to, you know, kind of level where the Titans needed to get to, at least, you know, 9-7 kind of area. And they've been better than that. I can't tell you why Todd's doing anything failing that he's doing. It's hard to get explanations. Yeah, I don't think that Cowden is a good idea here, Juice, because Cowden is J-Rob's right-hand man from the start of this. If he was protesting a lot of what J-Rob was doing, I don't think J-Rob would have kept him there. And so I think he was probably complicit in virtually all of the moves that got J-Rob fired. Logan, I'm not saying you play only to get good in 2026, but you'd want to be sure that your timetable, if you're rebuilding, you'd like it to coincide with selling expensive seats for your expensive stadium so that it would be full and help pay your bills. It's a repeated problem, particularly for Roger McCreary, that the corners don't get their heads around. I hope promoting from within is not an option. If they're promoted from within, I'd prefer Monty Ossenfort to Ryan Cowden, but I think Monty Ossenfort is also a big John Robinson guy. The thing about Nate Davis is I think he might have been one of the guys that Vrabel was talking about with the 8-4 thing. So, David, if Vrabel had held on to the team, how would they have beaten Cincinnati? How would they have won these games against better teams? How is it him losing the team that has caused things like Henry fumbling, or Tannehill getting hurt, or Burks getting hurt? Things that have really killed them. How is that him losing the team? Talk me through your logic there. Well, they're not going to get better this year, Jeffrey. I don't know that they're going to be a good team next year because it can't solve the quarterback problem, and offensive line revamp is awfully big. But I don't know what you're thinking is going to fix their offense by Thursday or a week from Sunday or 2 weeks from Sunday. Not too many teams have a passing game that's completely independent of the run game. You're watching one of them tonight because the Chargers don't try to run it. No way Dennis Daly's going to be back on this team, Joseph. Sean Payton's better, sure. You think the Titans are going to pay John Robinson for the next 4 years, and they're going to fire Mike Vrabel, pay him for the next 4 years, and pay Sean Payton what he's worth for the next 4 years on top of that, and that Sean Payton's going to want to come here over the other places that want him, who have quarterbacks lined up for him to coach? I mean, let's have some semblance of realism, Juan. Here, Noah, reasonable. He's watching Staley coach versus Saturday. Vrabel's on another planet from these dudes. Absolutely correct. Jackie, this is not true. Derrick Henry's had 5 guys on his back the bulk of his career and not fumbled. It's just not true. He was not talking about Byard, and God bless Byard. He's the only one who stands up with Simmons, the two of the 4 best players on the team, and actually accounts for what's going on. And you need guys on the team who are good enough to do that and understand that somebody's got to take account. You guys bitch about nobody takes accountability, and now you're going to bitch about Byard talking? You want everybody to just hide? If the Cowboys win their last 2 games and the Eagles lose their last 2 games, the Cowboys win the NFC East. Yeah, Phelan, they're gonna rest people. I mean, they've got people who are hurt they're gonna rest. I wouldn't expect probably Fulton or Hooker back. You saw the injury report out today. Look, Downing stinks, Juan. I'm not impressed with Downing at all. But if you're going to bitch about Rob Moore, he's got no talent. And if you're going to bitch about Keith Carter, he's got no talent. And I think when Rob Moore has had talent, the wide receivers have been good. And I think when Keith Carter has had talent, the wide receivers have been good. I'm disappointed that Anthony Midget can't get cornerbacks to turn their head. So it's not like the coaches are without fault. But everybody always wants to know the primary thing. And the primary thing is the talent and the lack of depth and the injuries. And those things are, I think Vrabel has to get to the bottom of the injury stuff for sure. But the primary thing is not the coach. The primary thing is not Mike Vrabel. They need to run more RPO. They ran by Blake Bedingfield's count. You should be a member of my site. The details are below. Blake Bedingfield wrote this in his game review. He's a former scout of the Titans, 19 years. He does a game preview and a game review every week. He reviewed it. There were 2 designed runs for Malik Willis, which is ridiculous. There were 11 RPOs. The Titans gained, I believe, 111 yards on those RPO plays, which was a good chunk of their offensive yardage. They scored both their touchdowns on those. So why not do more of it? I just don't understand how people just automatically think Dobbs is good. How many teams has Dobbs been on? NFL doesn't need to intervene with Tua. Somebody's asking because Tua is in concussion protocol. So he's not going to be back for a while. Why do you want Louis Riddick for GM, Jacqueline? I'll tell you why. Because you know him. You see him on TV. Most of the candidates for GM you don't know because they're an assistant GM somewhere. And it would be like somebody in another market knowing Ryan Cowden or Monty Ossenfort. You don't know. Louis Riddick is not the best candidate for Titans GM. He's just the one you've seen the most. Noah, you been around long enough to see Will Svitek? Dennis Daly is way better than Will Svitek. You're welcome, Elliot. We're going to close this down in a minute. Here's another thing. If Amy Adams Strunk were to stupidly fire Mike Vrabel, who's giving her football advice? Burke Nihill? Gil Beverly? Robbie Boren? If Amy Adams Strunk didn't have Mike Vrabel, Shane Bowen, I mean, the staff of assistants would be under contract. Who's her football advisor? Who's her football person? Ryan Cowden? The best football person she has on staff is Mike Vrabel by a mile. It's just idiocy. If she fires Mike Vrabel, she's an idiot, and she loses a ton of credibility in terms of being a solid owner for this franchise. A ton. If Todd Downing's let go, the offensive coordinator, 85% certainty, is Tim Kelly, who's the coordinator in waiting on the staff, who Vrabel wanted to hire when he promoted Downing, but he couldn't get the Texans to let go of. Jacqueline, you're really getting turned around. Vrabel overcame a ton of injuries last year. They used 90 players last year when Vrabel won Coach of the Year. They've used 82 players this year. Yeah, you can only overcome injuries for so long. Yeah, Daryl, I stayed warm. I mean, the Titans could beat the Jaguars if they force a bunch of turnovers, defense and special teams, make a lot of plays. I don't think they've got it in them. I think their spirit's completely broken. All right. I got to get out of here. We've been in here for 47 minutes. Noah, definitely you should subscribe. Anybody in here who's not a member, I don't know how you wouldn't subscribe. This GM search and the turnover this team's going to have after this season, you're not going to get any better discussion of it, or anybody who's tied in better in the league, has dealt with GMs and personnel people around the league, who's going to have insight from them than from me. Ripley, my dog, who had his arm amputated a little over 2 weeks ago, is doing pretty well. He got shaved a lot. I don't believe in dogs and clothes, but he's wearing a sweater. But he's learning how to get that front arm over and use it in the middle instead of on the side. So I appreciate you all asking. Brandon Lewis with the parting instruction here. Says, go subscribe now, folks. You won't regret it. I hope you will. And Jamie says, if you're not a member, you're missing out. Sign up today, and you will be wishing you did sooner. I appreciate all of that. I ask you, as I do at the end of every get-together, don't block the box. Do lock your locks. And I'll see you soon. Read up paulkuharsky.com tomorrow more about Vrabel and job security. And go there right now and read about why this meaningless game has a lot of meaning for the Titans on Thursday night. I appreciate you all. Hope we get a good second half.